All right, we're here for the finals of the Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
And we might not have the finals that we want, but it sure as hell the finals that Pioneer deserves. We have two players playing Mono Green Devotion, and I want to throw up. I want to throw up, Ross.
This deck is a problem.
Yeah, it's been a problem forever. I think I tweeted Karn should be banned last November.
It's it's just complete nonsense, and the mirror is the most nonsensiest of it all.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. We got two great players here in the finals. One is our defending champion from the last Pioneer event. That's Mason Clark. Tell us about the opponent.
Daniel Stout was our number one overall seed, so started 4-0. Actually played out round 5 for seeding, won that one, so has swept every match he's played. He's on the play in this match. That should give him a slight advantage. Their lists are a little bit different. There's generally, I keep saying, 3 flex spots in these mono green lists. And Mason is doing the most consistent thing, just playing 3 copies of Polukranos.
Yep.
Polukranos not as good in the mirror. It does provide a lot of devotion, which can be helpful, but the actual body of the creature, it's generally just not relevant. Even when you transform it, the other deck can go over the top of that because of the combo element in mono green devotion. Daniel has 2 copies of Polukranos, is also playing a main deck Sky Sovereign, which is good in the mirror.
Yes, because it can kill the Karn the Great Creator with the 3
Yeah.
damage effect.
He's also playing a main deck Blossoming Tortoise, trimmed down to 3 copies
Love
of
it.
Oath of Nissa to fit another flex spot in the
Cool.
main deck. We saw Ryan Hayes round 1 with 2 copies of Blossoming Tortoise. It was not very good for him. Apparently, it's been better for Daniel Stout, and it should be pretty good in the mirror. Just anything to dig towards Nykthos and get a mana advantage
Yes.
is going to be helpful in this mirror because that's what it's all about. I want to go as big as possible, as quickly as possible.
All right, well, the players are ready in the feature match area, so let's not make them wait any longer. This is going to be a potential marathon match. We watched an entire game from Mason take about 40 minutes earlier when they had
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Pissing Needle on Karn was pretty rough. Both players here leading off with Lair the Hydra into an Elf. We'll see if Daniel Stop wants to keep the acceleration going or start deploying some of those big baddies that cost 3. Attack for 1. Showed him who's boss. 2 more elves. Never block, chat. Just never block. All right. Bag Mason's way.
My turn 2 play was a Wolflow Haven. I might block.
Well, you'd probably lose because of it. 2 mana. See? Because now he can do stuff with the Wolfwell Haven mana. See? Never block, Ross. If he finds an elf, I'm going to scream at you. Right? You just suggested the worst thing ever. All right. What's he got? I hope it's a brick. Triple elf start from Daniel Stout. Very scary stuff. Can threaten a turn 3 Storm the Festival. Technically can maybe win on turn 3. I don't know.
I think to win on turn 3, you'd probably have to have Kiora on too.
Well, could go Old Growth Troll, Nykthos, stuff. All right? Whatever that stuff is, dealer's choice. All right, we find another elf. So a great start from Mason Clark. We're tapping 5. Here's Cavalier of Thorns from Stout. This is not maybe the most explosive follow-up for the triple elf, but it's certainly good and continues the acceleration, finds a forest.
Doesn't have the Nykthos yet. Did get to put a Storm the Festival in the graveyard. That will come up down the road.
And now Stout had access to Boseiju who endures, could have played that as land for turn, chose not to save it for later. Mason Clark has one in hand as well. A true mirror match happening right now in the finals. The Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. Mason, your defending champion, makes it back to the finals playing the same deck, maybe even the same 75. Couldn't find Toidles. Seems like he doesn't need them. Here's Old Growth Troll and a Nykthos. We're going to activate. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a Cavalier with 2 floating. We find a Nykthos, we can go again. Top 5. Finds a forest.
Also bins the Storm the Festival.
A true mirror match continuing. Says go. Back Daniel Stop's way. Let's see if he can do something cool. Needs Nykthos. Doesn't have one yet, I don't think.
Interesting choice of basic land for Daniel Stop. I believe those are Mercadian Masks.
I actually had some of those when I first started playing. That was about the time I started, and I remember I bet those are the forests that are in the Nesting Worm Precon deck because I bought that deck. And I recognize those forests.
Stout goes 2 for 2 on hitting a Storm of the Festival off of Cavalier of Thorns. Still can't find a Nykthos, though.
But we're going to Boseiju Mason Clark's Nykthos, and that's maybe going to constrict the mana next turn, so maybe no Storm in the Festival. We'll see if Mason can do something to deploy another Nykthos and start doing those big flashbacks from the graveyard. No attacks from Stout. The 5/6s bouncing off each other, and only one can attack. We draw. Looks like Old Growth Troll. It's okay, not great, but Oath of Nissa is the start. Let's look. 3 deep for the Nykthos. Finds a card in the Great Crater, I think. It looked like a colorless card. No, Old Growth Troll.
Mason doing a big think. Getting the forehead massage going. It's been a long weekend.
I talked to him just a moment before they started, and he said he has a headache, so I feel sorry for little buddy. But
Well, it doesn't seem to be affecting him that much because he has played some complicated games and navigated them beautifully.
I did give him crap for not drawing a card off the Cityscape Leveler coming in on Kiora, though.
As you should.
Yeah, needle. Here's another Old Growth Troll. Now, if you're Mason, just pass back. Neither player can break serve. One needs Nykthos to be able to flashback Storm in the Festival. A Kiora is the find. That can draw some cards for Daniel Stop. It looks like his hand is pretty juiced up. Has access to a card in the Great Creator as well. Lot of decision trees here for Stout. Was our first overall seed. Both these players crushing with Mono Green Devotion.
Yeah, I believe neither has lost on the day because Mason we saw take an unintentional draw in round 4, but then won out from there to make the top 8.
All right, Kiora here, coming down, going to provide a little bit of mana, but more importantly, turns Old Growth Troll, Cavalier of Thorns, and Polukranos into card draw effects. We draw another Old Growth Troll. We can't deploy it just yet, I don't think. But we could untap an elf to maybe ensure that our Kiora stays alive. I don't think that's necessary, so I'm just going to say go. 7 loyalty is pretty high. A lot of blockers on play. Mason draws for turn. Looks at a hand, I think, 2 more Old Growth Trolls. But without Kiora, kind of want to just hold on to them because you're not attacking with them. Don't need to block with them. And if you do draw Kiora, they start chaining off into more stuff.
Yeah, it's only a question of whether Mason wants to use them to block.
I don't think Daniel's going to be attacking anytime soon.
Yeah, I think Daniel's plan is to get to those Storm the Festivals in the graveyard. Just needs to find his own Nykthos, and then he'll be off and running.
Boseiju on that Nykthos earlier. Daniel stopped blowing up Mason's Nykthos. A huge focal point for this match so far. Completely changed how Mason is playing his turns.
Yeah, and Stout skipped a land drop in order to keep that Boseiju. And a very heads-up play. Normally you want to get as much mana out as you can in these mirror matches, but Nykthos is so important that Stout was willing to forego that land drop in order to make sure he had an answer to it.
All right, Mason, what you got? Really just tanking on the troll or not? It looks like he's going to go ahead and play it. Just maybe wants to make sure he doesn't get overrun by Daniel Stop's creatures. Going to go back his way and draw a card. Hold your hand up so I can see it, please. Thank you.
It's like 7 mana currently for Stout. Not enough to flashback Storm the Festival.
All right, here's Karn. Just going to go digging. Wonder if there's an artifact that we can play that's like Expedition Map or whatever to go get Nykthos.
Inscribed Tablet, maybe?
Neato. It's a cool thought. All right. Gonna go looking in the sideboard for one of these powerful artifacts. Not access to a ton of mana. Normally you want to see Karn doing that when you have Nykthos going, but neither player with access to Nykthos right now. Gonna have to kind of small ball the Karn, find micro advantages, but neither player really able to attack through. Could do the thing that we saw earlier. I swear, if Daniel Stop says Pithy Needle on Karn the Great Crater, I'm just going to call it. No one wants to watch that. Stonebrain, though. Stonebrain's a nice one, and we can go ahead and pop all the Karns out of Mason's deck. And I think if that happens, I think the game's over. We can untap one land with the Kiora, and then we have 3 elves that can do it. That's 4 mana. And that's all the Karn and Mason's deck gone. And we know how hard it is for Mono Green to win a mirror without Karn the Great Creator. We're not doing it yet. We're going to go for the Toidle. Looking for Nykthos. Top 3. Finds a Nykthos. Turtle coming in clutch.
Everything coming up Millhouse for Daniel Staup here.
And go. Hold your breath. Hope Mason doesn't kill you. I think if Mason draws Nykthos, he'll win the game. I think if he draws anything that can find Nykthos and he finds Nykthos, he can win the game. But if he doesn't do it this turn, I think he loses. And I think Staup 100% should have taken those Karns from him to protect him from that. We have a Boseiju blowing up the Nykthos. We're going to go get a Forest. Mason's been holding on to that Boseiju for quite a while for this exact moment. That's a Kiora. Maybe he wishes he held that old Growth Troll now.
As is, he just doesn't really have much going on. Doesn't have the big payoffs. Has all the mana, has all the creatures, but the creatures get mucked up against the opposing creatures, and you need the over-the-top planeswalkers in order to take control in these mirror matches.
All right, looks like we're lining up a big attack to knock down the Karn. We'll see if Daniel Staup wants to try to block in a certain way. Now, every time an old Growth Troll dies, that is going to allow the Kiora to potentially draw a card. We'll lose some devotion, but without Nykthos in play, it's not a huge deal. Mason just looking for more food for the fire. Fuel for the fire, you know, you get it.
Staup does have 4 blockers here, but he would have to lose the Tortoise.
I'm out of here. Karn down. Doesn't want to eat any of the trolls because it allows for more mana. That pushes closer to, you guessed it, Storm the Festival in the graveyard. We're not there yet. It's going to be a minute before either player gets there unless one player can draw Nykthos right now.
Well, Staup can just attack with the Tortoise and return the Nykthos in the graveyard. He'll lose the Tortoise to a blocker.
Let's get the Blossoming Tortoise in play. I think it enters tapped.
Yeah.
But then you untap it with Kiora.
Yeah.
Yeah, good call. I forgot it was interplay and attack. It's like a small Primeval Titan.
Yeah, Tortoise Titan.
All right, here comes the Tortoise. 1, 2, 3. Nykthos comes back. It also only costs 1 to activate, which is super cool. Untaps Nykthos, and we are off. Daniel Staup about to make a boatload of mana. He has another Kiora in hand, multiple Storm the Festivals in the graveyard. Let's see what he can do. We're going to start with activating Nykthos.
Looks like 13 devotion to me. Oh, yeah, 13.
That's what I got. That layer kind of caught me off guard. Kind of looks like a Wolfwell Haven, but
yeah. You always have to do the Wolfwell Haven check when you're counting devotion.
Right. All right. 13 mana. We have Kiora, which can untap the Nykthos and keep going. We're going to go down to 3 and flashback Storm the Festival.
Yeah, you have enough to storm first, then play Kiora, untap Nykthos, and still activate it, so you might as well cast a spell that might put more devotion onto the battlefield.
5 cards off the top. We find a Nykthos, we find a Karn the Great Creator, and that's going to be it. Daniel Staup's going to win game number 1. It might not look deterministic, but I guarantee you that it is. This Karn the Great Creator can go and find the Chain Veil, and then the Chain Veil can allow for 1,000,000 activations. And then when you do that with Pestilent Cauldron, the backside is Restorative Burst. And Stone Brain in hand, you can just mill every single card out of your opponent's deck because all these artifacts exile themselves. And then Karn the Great Creator can do it again because it pulls from exile.
Why? Why did they template the card that way?
To make sure you couldn't do recursion stuff, obviously.
Just make it like every other wish. It's ridiculous.
Well, they errated all the wishes, Ross, so you can't say make it like every other wish. Okay, Mason packs it in. See, Daniel Staup has to be a mono green veteran. Instead of physically doing it all, just says, hey, I'm going to do all this. And Mason's like, hey, I do that too.
Yeah, I understand what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
All right, well, as these players shuffle up for game number 2, I want Ross to take a moment and look at their sideboards and see if there's any artifacts that he thinks will be coming in from the sideboard and over those Polucranoses or whatever else, and which ones he thinks will be good.
All right. Looking at Daniel Staup's sideboard, I see a Tormod's Crypt, a Shadow Spear, a Pithing Needle, a Damping Sphere, a Haywire Mite, a Pestilent Cauldron, a Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, the Might Stone and Weak Stone, the Filigree Silex, Transmogrifying Wand, the Chain Veil, the Stone Brain, Darksteel Citadel, Azeka's Chariot, and Cityscape Leveler. I could see bringing in the Leveler.
Yeah,
I could see bringing in the boat.
Which boat?
Sky Sovereign.
I tricked you. Every time anyone says
Yeah.
Sky Sovereign, it's mandatory.
I don't like bringing in the cheap spells because those are the ones that are really easy to wish for with Karn.
Yes,
But
especially when people are blowing up each other's Nykthos with Beseiju
yeah.
aggressively.
But I like having some of the bigger spells. They can come in over like Polukranos Reborn or something like that. And going over to Mason's sideboard, going to be quite similar. His is Haywire Might, Azeka's Chariot, Cityscape Leveler, Woodcaller Automaton, Tormod's Crypt, Pythic Needle, Damping Sphere, the Filigree Silex, the Stone Brain, Pestilent Cauldron, Transmogrifying Wand, the Chain Veil, Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, Godfarer's Statue, and Darksteel Citadel. Sort of same thing. Cityscape Leveler and Sky Sovereign are the ones I'd be tempted to bring in.
All right, these players are ready for game number 2. They're drawing their opening hands. Mason going to go ahead and take a mulligan. We'll see if Stop wants to keep his.
Is this going to be the first loss that Mason takes in Pioneer here on the Apex Series? Won the tournament last month, is in the finals this month, but might be felled, hoisted by his own petard, losing a mirror in
Yeah,
the finals.
the secret's out. Mono Green's great.
Yeah, there were 9 in our field out of 42 participants. That's a little over 20% of the field. 4 of them making the top 8, 2 of them making the top 4, and then 2 of them making the top 2.
Yeah, and neither of these players have taken a loss in this event yet. Daniel Stop went undefeated in the Swiss, as did Mason. He took an unintentional draw in round number 4, but otherwise unblemished records all around. And you got to think, can anything really stop Mono Green Devotion? We thought it was going to be the Boros Heroic deck that we watched earlier in the day, but it was felled last round by Daniel Stop.
Yeah, we had Boros Heroic, Mono White Humans, and Bant Lotus Field that all seemed like they'd have good matchups against Mono Green. Boros and Mono White both lost to Mono Green in the elimination rounds. And Kyle Montgomery's got to be thinking what might have been had he not been paired against Boros in the quarters. Had he gotten some of these Mono Green pairings, he might have been able to go over the top of them with some powerful discontinuities and such out of his deck.
All right, these players are keeping 6, or at least Mason's keeping his 6, trying to figure out what to put back, trying to figure out the best sequence for the first few turns. Mulligans are always the most tricky part with Mono Green Devotion. That and the combo turns. Those are the hard turns. All right. Looks, I missed it. That's fine. I'm going to put one bottom. Daniel Stop going to do the same. And we're off. Mason Clark. Force go. No elf. Maybe he took an aggressive mulligan looking for it. I know he does have Wolf Willowhaven, though. And now Daniel Stop does break serve with an elf of his own. And here's Wolf Willowhaven from Mason.
So once again, Advantage Staup has the much more aggressive draw. Kiora into another elf is the nuts.
It's literally the nuts. And it's going to be tough for Mason to catch up. He has a cure of his own. He's going to be doing some fun stuff here, including playing Old Growth Troll and draw a card. And if he finds Nykthos, might be able to do some dirty stuff next turn. Backstop's way. We'll see if he can match. Both players here basically just posturing, building up their sides of the battlefield, looking for some major turns. Finds Oath of Nissa into Forest. Okay. Plays the land for turn. Not a Nykthos. We are going to go for Wolf Willowhaven. We can use that with Kiora to get Karn the Great Creator on the battlefield, but could be a little awkward against that Old Growth Troll. All right, going to go for it. No protection. Going to tick it up. Okay, trying to keep it nice and tight. Back Mason's way. Let's see if he has Nykthos. If he does, this turn's going to be pretty fast and heavy. If he doesn't have Nykthos, it's going to be pretty weak.
And Nykthos would give him access to at least 10 mana.
I think I saw an Oath of Nissa hanging in there, so maybe he can play that first and dig for the Nykthos. That'll completely change how the rest of the turn works, but we'll see if he wants to go for that or do something else. Here's the Oath. This card was banned in Pioneer for a short period of time. Unjustly banned, I think.
Get out of here.
Seems to find folk at Wizard of the Coast believe me, or agree with me.
But look at what they have wrought.
Yeah, it's definitely Oath's fault. Big time.
Everybody knows that Oath of Nissa is the best card in the deck. It would be completely unplayable.
It's the third best one drop. I think you could literally close your eyes and fire a bullet at the deck, and whatever card it hit would be a harder ban for it to get over than Oath of Nissa. Maybe Old Growth Troll could go, but removal would be much better against your creature suite. Mason in the tank. Looks like he found an Old Growth Troll off of the Oath that he can play and draw a card. But that means his turn is basically going to be done unless he can find some way to get Nykthos. There's an Elfin Hand. Can't see the rest too well.
Yeah, I wonder what he's deciding between.
Maybe land or Old Growth Troll. The land maybe unlocks a cool turn with a Karn sequence. Karn for Pithy Needle on Karn. If he does that, I'm out of here, man. But I think it's maybe the right play, which is disgusting. Because when you're behind, right, locking out the pieces is important. Sometimes you Damping Sphere to stop your opponent's Nykthos because your Nykthos isn't as good, or they're about to untap with a Nykthos and do some dirty.
Oh.
4-point attack.
Instead, takes an Old Growth Troll.
Leaves Karn at 3.
Oh. So Stout deciding to throw away an elf in order to preserve his Karn.
I think Mason's going to be pretty happy about that. We'll see now if he wants to go ahead and Pithy Needle it. He has access to at least 5 mana with Cure untapping the Wolfwill Haven land. I think he's just thinking about how horrible the game was earlier, where they had Needle on Karn and just could not close. And he knows that if he does that, he's in for that kind of a game.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it's probably correct. I hate to say it, but it's probably correct. Okay, Pithy Needle on Karn. Stalp already has a Boseiju on the battlefield, which means that he's got 1 Boseiju left in the deck to find in order to unlock Karn for both players. Boseiju notably cannot hit your own artifacts, and so Mason can't unlock his own Pithy Needle with a Boseiju. It's up to Daniel Stout.
This is a game where a transformed Pelucranos.
I'm going to go get
very good.
You just keep talking for a while. This is done. I'm out of here.
Okay.
It's going to be a while, Ross. This is for comedic effects.
Well, Daniel Stout plays a Llanowar Elves. And we'll see if he decides to attack down the opposing Karn just to get it off the battlefield, or attack down. The Pelucranos just entered, so yeah, no attacks from Stout. Turn passes back to Mason. I think he just drew a Boseiju. Interesting. There's the Old Growth Troll he found off the Oath. Draws a card from Kiora. That's a Cavalier of Thorns. Oh no, that was not a Boseiju. It's a Lair of Hydra. It was Mason's draw for the turn. That's even better. Just a couple elves to follow up the Old Growth Troll and the tapped Lair. So that 1 Cavalier is the last card in hand, and he passes back. Stout untaps and draws. Making a bunch of mana. That looks like 5. So Cavalier.
Alright, what I miss?
Ooh, boat.
I'm back. Anything fun happen?
No, just played some stuff. I imagine this boat will target the... Oh, I thought it would target the Karn so that you can then crew it.
Maybe it should have.
I know the Karns are Pithy Needled, but the static ability is still in effect.
I believe Mason drew a Boseiju, but again, can't use it on his own. There's Cavalier Thorns going to draw. Look at the top 5, finding a land. Finds another Boseiju. Don't know if we have anything in the graveyard here. Flashback. Bless you. Lair of the Hydra, number 2. We're going to go back Daniel Staup's way. Sky Sovereign Lockdown. Pelucranos Reborn can transform to the big Wormcoil Engine backside. But this is just going to be a huge board stall. Just big creatures versus big creatures, and no one's going to be able to posture.
Yeah, the Kiora is giving Mason a pretty big advantage. All of his creatures are cantripping, finding more gas and chaining through his deck. He's also found a couple copies of Lair of the Hydra, and even with the Pelucranos, Mason might be able to go wide around it and take over this game.
If there's a Storm of the Festival in the graveyard, or Mason draws one, he does look to have just about enough to flash it back. I think the Kiora will be knocked off to do it, but probably worth it at some point. All right.
Looks like we're transforming the Pelucranos here.
There is a Kiora slightly off screen, I think, for Daniel Staup. Is that true?
Seems like it.
Okay. We're going to transform Pelucranos Reborn into the backside Pelucranos Unchained. I don't know. I think that's the black-green one. Whatever. The big dum-dum, the 6/6 lifelinker. Mason, continuing his Kiora draws, finds a Pelucranos of his own into Oath of Nissa. Oath going to go digging. What can he find? 6 mana. Going to go ahead and transform himself.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Anything you can do, I can do better than you. I messed it up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's just I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Gotta remember your Mia Hamm commercials.
I mean, I was thinking of the original.
It's Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah, but that's like a old thing. You're like they copied that for the
Yeah, they used
Michael
the
Jordan
song.
commercial, but like
That's how everybody knows it. That's the cultural reference, Todd. Ooh,
I
good draw here from Daniel
disagree.
Staup and Storm the Festival.
You're ruining my life.
Good.
Here's 2 old growth trolls. They're gonna draw 2 cards off the Kiora, the slightly off screen. Could we actually, Mr. Director, do you mind going to go ask them to put the Kiora on screen? It's very important that it's just in play. No? Okay. Right. I'm gonna see if our spotter can get them to do it. Slightly off on the framing. There's another Pelucranos Reborn. The front side here is differently named than the back side. So while they're legendary, they have different names. So both can sit in play. And if Daniel ever wants to transform that Pelucranos into the backside, it will grant him, I believe it's 4 3/3 tokens, but don't quote me on that. It might be more, it might be less. They both, I think it's 8 actually, because I think they both see each other. And there's 2 instances of the doubling.
Yeah, but honestly, what does 8/3/3s get you on this battlefield?
I don't know.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. Mason untaps. Ton of mana to work with, but Karn the Great Creator locked down. This is what we're afraid of. This is my nightmare. All I want to do is go to Wings. I'm dreaming of the Garg barbecue.
Finds Cavalier off Oath of Nissa, does Mason Clark, casting the Cavalier, draw off Kiora, trigger the Cavalier, look at the top 5. We'll get a land, the rest will go to the graveyard. Looks like we did not get a land since Mason's putting all 5 in the bin.
Can we do lo-fi hip-hop beats to chill and study to, and just have that play over the match for the next hour? I think a lot of people need to get some sleep, and I think that would really help. I'm just kidding. But, oh man, what a tough game, you know? It's going to be so hard for either player to win. Pith Needle and Karn the Great Creator. WotC, Wizards of the Coast, I'm calling you out. This is your fault. Not only did you make Karn the Great Creator, but you left it in Pioneer. You know what you did.
This is your fault. You did this.
Look at it! That Sky Sovereign, honestly, might be doing some work, but Cavalier of Thorns does check it pretty nicely. Mason's going to get aggressive here. Let's go smashing. Attacking down the Kiora, or at least that's the attempt. I think Mason wants these old growth trolls to die so he can start sacrificing them to draw more cards. Knows that his life total is not really under that much pressure. And going to gain life from the Pelucranos Reborn, and so now just wanting to challenge those Planeswalkers so that they can't keep accruing value.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what Mason's endgame scenario is, though, because he's never going to be able to blow up his own Pithing Needle. Unless he brought in the one Haywire might.
Well, he did get Needle at some point, and well, I don't know. There's also Karn in place. Haywire Might doesn't do anything.
Yeah, can't you? You could somehow get Karn off the battlefield.
All right, so it looks like Daniel is lining up some blocks that will eat the old growth trolls, keeping both his creatures alive, gaining him 6 life, but leaving the cure to fall to the graveyard. Curious if he wants to put trolls on anything, maybe double blocking Cavalier of Thorns, maybe double blocking the Plukernos. Okay. Gonna single block each of the other creatures. And now Mason, no trample coming through. We got 6 life coming from the lair. All 4 old growth trolls are going to die. They're gonna enchant the lands of the controllers and can be sacrificed at some point to draw a card by making a 4/4 with that cure in play.
Yeah, so let's decide what lands they want to put them on. Probably, otherwise unenchanted forests.
All right, Mason looks like he has some post-combat plans for this mana, so lining it up to maybe put it on one with Wolfhaven, which is a little awkward because he wants to sacrifice it to make a 4/4 and draw a card, and doesn't want to lose the Wolfhaven as a result, so gonna put it on a tapped force instead. It's gonna limit his post-combat potential. We'll see if he has anything to do.
Another card Mason could be playing towards here is the one of Cityscape Leveler. If he brought that one in, that can actually destroy any permanent, not just ones your opponents control. Non-land permanent, of course. So that could unlock his own Karn as well as decimate Daniel Staup's battlefield.
All right, here is another Kiora from Mason, and that's going to tap him out. Daniel Staup here. Going to go ahead and sacrifice the land with the old growth troll on it. Draw a card.
Get himself a 4/4 Troll Warrior with Trample.
All right, here's a Plukernos number 2 and draw a card. So, back Daniel Staup's way. A long turn for Mason. Now, I want to reiterate that these players are playing for a regional championship invite. These are untimed rounds in the finals. While this game might take forever, we found it! We found the legendary Boseiju who endures. Daniel Staup can blow up the Pithing Needle and turn Karn back on, but does not have Nykthos. Might not want to do it just yet.
Yeah, Nykthos is a key part of this equation.
All right, well, we're making one land that taps for 5, and we're going to untap with Kiora, and we're going to cast Storm the Festival. It's going to look through the top 5 and find 2 permanents with mana value 5 or less to put into play. Nykthos is a pickup here that could be devastating, especially with that Boseiju. And I believe this is Daniel Staup's match. He has the Boseiju, he has the Nykthos, he has the ability to use it all with the Karn the Great Creator, going to grab some of those artifacts out of the sideboard, like Cityscape Leveler, which can blow up the opposing Karn and unlock him for the rest of the game.
I think this is 18 devotion for Daniel Staup, and he can use those elves up the top of his battlefield to activate the Nykthos this turn.
Yeah, unfortunately can't Chain Veil for full combo here. Oh, Mason's got to know he's in trouble. Daniel hasn't picked up his sideboard in quite a while, but he wants to take a look at the Karn targets. And because of that, Mason's got to know that Daniel Staup drew the Boseiju. No more, no more. Oh, if he goes for the Chain Veil, he's going to be sorely disappointed. The Karn the Great Creator on the other side will lock it down.
Yeah, that'll be a problem.
So maybe you can't win this turn because of the Karn on the other side locking down the Chain Veil, but can blow up the Needle, get Cityscape Leveler, and then blow up the Karn.
I like that. I like that quite a bit.
Thumbing through.
Yeah, this is just Daniel Staup being careful. He knows he's ahead. He's already won a game.
He also knows that the moment the Pithing Needle is off, it's possible that if he doesn't win the game, Mason can win the game next turn.
Boseiju there costing 1 to channel because of the Pelucranos.
And now, Karn's unlocked. Gonna float 2 from the elves. Nick those. So that's 18-ish. Frost's math is correct.
Yeah. It's hard to count entirely because some of the permanents are only half on our screen. Okay, it was 17.
Okay. Minus Karn. Gonna go for the Chain Veil. A disastrous find for Daniel Stop. The static on Karn is ruining his life. It's in play too. And it's locked down. Now we're going to go back Mason's way. And Daniel missed the Karn on the other side. Static ability. And now Karn is unlocked. And Mason gets to untap. Oh boy, this might have stepped in it.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. It'll depend on where the Cityscape Leveler is for Mason. Did he sideboard it in, or is it in the sideboard to find with this Karn? Because at the very least, next turn, Staup can plus the Karn to animate Sky Sovereign and attack the Karn. Mason has blockers, but the trigger would likely answer it unless Mason wishes for an answer with that Karn.
Is he just conceding?
I think so.
I mean, it's similar position though, right? Can't Chain Veil. I'm confused.
Both of these players are very comfortable with the deck. I'm sure they saw the writing on the wall. I imagine it's Cityscape Leveler, but if I'm Staup, I want to see that that's in your sideboard.
Not only do I want to see this in your sideboard, I want you to do it, and I want you to at least start chaining off before I concede. Because, like you said, it could be in the deck already, but also, I don't know, man. That seemed premature to me, but I don't know.
A major blunder there from Daniel Staup, finding the Chain Veil with his Karn when he couldn't activate it because of the opposing Karn still on the battlefield for Mason Clark. And he could have dealt with that Karn long ago in that game. When the Sky Sovereign was first cast, that Karn was still on 3.
Right. Said dealt 3 to the Cure, putting it down to 1 so that Mason couldn't use it over and over again to make extra mana. And he's got to be kicking himself. He was on the cusp of an invite to the regional championship in Denver next year. Unfortunately for him, that blunder might cost him.
And leaves the window cracked open for Mason Clark to go back-to-back in Pioneer tournaments here on the Apex Series.
How does he keep getting away with it?
The good news for Daniel is that he will be on the play here for Game 3, and that is very important in the mirror.
All right, looks like Mason's going to step away for just a second. Call it bio break. These players are going to shovel up shortly. Start game number 3. We're in the finals. The Pioneer $2,000 Open here at Apex Gaming in Caldwell, Ohio. These players are not only playing for cash money, but they're also playing for that invite to the regional championship. The top 2 unqualified players are also going to be joining us in November for the Apex Gaming Invitational that we're going to be having right here in this very store. We try to broadcast all of our big events, including our Apex Magic Weekends, which we have about every month or month and a half. And while we're playing some awesome events this weekend with a $5,000 Open from yesterday that was won by Don Delozier and the $2,000 Open that we're in the finals of today, we'll be doing the exact same thing on October 28th. So make sure to mark your calendars for the October 28th weekend for the next Apex Magic.
We've only got one more game for this weekend.
We do only have one more game for this weekend, but it could be the longest game you ever seen.
It could be over in 10 minutes. It could be over in 1,000 minutes.
1,000 is strong. I think they'll deck before that.
I don't know. We'll see.
Time will tell. All right, players are drawing their openers. Mason back at the table, getting ready here for game number 3. He won game number 2 on the back of a big blunder from Staup. Staup finding a Chain Veil to try to combo off, but unfortunately, the Karn of the Great Creator on the other side stopped it. And now Mason looking to capitalize on that mistake and become back-to-back Pioneer champion here at Apex Gaming.
And Staup taking a mulligan here in game 3, trying to dig to those fast Llanowar Elf starts. Has had them in the first 2 games, needs a third one here.
All right, gonna go to 6. He's had 2 great starts. You know, Mason was actually super on the back foot earlier. Had to go for the Karn the Great Crater on the Pithy Needle just to make sure that Daniel didn't kill him on the following turn. It ultimately ends in this weird showdown situation where Daniel has to draw Boseiju at some point to unlock it, or else just piles of creatures staring at each other. Unfortunately for Stop, just that huge misstep with the Karn into Chainveil when he was able to unlock the Pithy Needle.
Yeah, I think a Cityscape leveler there would have locked up that game, this match, into this tournament for Daniel Staup. Instead, has to play one more to try to get his victory.
And a long day for both these players. We are in the finals here. And they've played 6 rounds of Swiss and now in 3 rounds of top 8. So you got to imagine that the stamina becomes a factor. So I'm tired just watching them.
I'll say it's a long weekend here, but it is a great weekend in Caldwell, Ohio. And I'm ready to crown another champion on the Apex series.
All right, Daniel looks like he's going to keep this 6, figuring out what to throw back. Maybe not. Maybe thinking about going to 5. If he doesn't have a great opener, a 5-card hand is likely better in the mirror. A functional 5 is significantly better than a slow 6.
Very, very true.
You like my alliteration?
Functional 5
versus slow 6.
Slow 6 is kind of a weak alliteration.
Whatever. Whatever. All right. Elf for Daniel Stop. Mason Clark doesn't match him. Plays Oath of Nissa. A bit weaker. He hasn't had turn 1 Elf as many times as Daniel Stop. See if Stop can continue his early explosive starts where Mason has been struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, Staup's been 3 for 3 on the turn 1 Elf, and Mason's 1 for 3.
All right, finds Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx. Now, going to go back Daniel's way. We got the land number 2, and we got Kiora. No 1-drop to follow it up, but still, turn 2 Kiora is quite good. We always say that Elf into Kiora Elf is the nuts. And he's had it once already, doesn't have it twice, though.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, but this is still a great start. He did play a Boseiju as land for the turn, which to me signifies that he didn't have a second land in hand and drew it. Now he finds Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx as another land. Can't quite do explosive stuff with it this turn. May want to protect it from Boseiju by not playing it this turn. Oath of Nissa. Finds Old Growth Troll. It's going to keep the gas flowing with Kiora.
You're right. Oh, no. I thought he was going to hold the Nykthos, but decides to play it. We'll see if he gets punished.
Well, if he does just blow up the Nykthos, Daniel has a huge board, and that's going to be the majority of Mason's mana for the turn. So I don't even think it's that bad for him. And you always want to begin your turn with a Nykthos on the battlefield so that a redundant Nykthos that you draw can be used to gain a lot of extra mana. All right, here's second Wolf Willowhaven into Old Growth Troll, but no Kiora for Mason, so it's just a 4/4 that can maybe pressure the Kiora a little bit. But we're going back Daniel's way, and he's got a ton of devotion, and he is gonna use it, making 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Gonna untap Nykthos. We are gonna continue playing stuff before activating Nykthos again. Gonna go down to 2. We're going to find Turtle. With this trigger on the stack, I would like... Oh, I guess then you don't have to... The Nykthos doesn't come in untapped. All right, 2 floating. This Nykthos costs 1 to activate now, thanks to the Tortoise. Let's get Blossoming Tortoise on the table, because this card is brand new, and people need to know what it does. We're going to activate Nykthos again. And it costs 1 less to activate the Nykthos, so we get an extra mana. It's a little bit different now. It also buffs Lair of the Hydras quite a bit. Mostly it's there to find Nykthos, be more redundant.
So this is 8 devotion. That should bring Staup to 9.
That's what I got. And the Kiora has been activated, so 9 seems like the cap for now, unless another Kiora or another Nykthos gets played this turn.
And the players agree.
Okay, and now we still have a land drop to play, and it looks like we also have Cavalier of Thorns. So this could be a full combo turn here for Daniel Stop. Let's see if he can keep going. Draws a card off the Kiora, top 5. No lands, so no second Nykthos. Mason gonna take a peek. I see another Kiora in hand. I don't think he has the ability to untap the Nykthos and keep going. Maybe just gonna play Old Growth Troll and draw a
Well,
card.
with the Tortoise in play, he can't. You can go
You
down to
are
one floating.
right. Wow, changing the math on me. Down to 1.
Instead, decides to go for the Pelucranos. So
Okay, maybe Daniel missed it as well, you know? And a Wolf Willhaven, that's going to cash all the mana from Daniel. And Mason, he's super far behind, but you have to at least breathe a small sigh of relief that you're not dead.
yeah,
It's certainly
Stout
possible.
needs to find a Karn to really put this game away. But even without the card, Mason's got to find something good just to catch back up.
Well, Mason's got a Nykthos in hand, so the start of his turn is going to be pretty powerful. We're going to see if he can try to match Daniel. Attacking here, I think, is a huge mistake from Stop because it's going to give Mason an extra mana, and sometimes that's all the difference you need.
And Mason could not block fast enough there.
All right, Karn the Great Creator's found. That's step 1.
Can cast it with 2 lands left over, maybe 3 if he has a land drop. He said he has a Nykthos, and there's 6 Devotion in play for Mason, so could play Karn with 6 left over. How good is Godfarer statue in the mirror?
Normally it's pretty good, but not when your opponent has 18 creatures in play and you don't have any blockers.
Yeah, the turtle would just attack down the Karn, and you'd be taking 9.
Also, I'm pretty sure you can just fight through Godfrey statue when you have a Nykthos and a million mana.
Yeah, that one's not going to be good enough.
Okie dokie. What you got, Mason? This is the big turn. I don't think he has a great one, but he does have Nykthos and a Karn. Mason deep in the tank. This might be the last relevant turn he plays this game. Daniel Stop gets untapped with what he has. I can't imagine Mason is able to win. And he knows it. Nykthos. Activate. 6 mana. Here, Storm the Festival. This is a great start. Top 5. What do you find? A Karn the Great Creator.
Looks like a bunch of lands.
I thought I saw a Cavalier of Thorns in there too. Yep.
Okay, so it has 2 hits.
All right. We can find another Nykthos. We can keep going. We can find a Kiora. Oh, we can't find a Kiora. But we can keep going.
That's a good start for Mason to get back into this game.
All right. Cavalier. Top 5. Sees a Forest. That extra mana is helpful. It does come in untapped off the Cavalier.
And hit another Storm the Festival. So 2 in the graveyard now for Mason Clark.
Okay. All right. This might be another Pithy Needle my own Karn situation to make sure you don't die. It could be a Damping Sphere. Both of our Nykthoses, so I dampen your ability to combo kill me next turn. We'll see what Mason wants to do. This is desperation mode, though, because you are under the gun. We're in game number 3 here of the finals. The Pioneer $2,000 Open here at Apex Gaming, Caldwell, Ohio. Your defending champion from our last Pioneer event, Mason Clark, looking to defend the title. He has got his back against the wall. Daniel Stop, undefeated on the day. Mason Clark, undefeated on the day. Both playing Mono Green Devotion. Here's Cavalier Thorns number 2. Now, even if he finds a Nykthos off of it, can't keep going. So this is not a concession, but I have to hit, and I have to go get Needle, and we have to lock down something. This time it's going to be Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. Can't untap Nykthos again.
That makes sense. Cuts down a lot of Daniel's mana. And Mason is the one with the Karn in play, not Daniel. So doesn't want to shut down his own Karn when it's not doing anything to stop his opponent.
I think naming Karn was the move, and I think not naming Karn is going to cost Mason the match because while locking down the Kiora can restrict some of the mana, there's so much mana already, and I know that once Daniel starts chaining things off, if he finds his own Karn, it's going to be disaster for Mason.
So this is 11...
400.
13? No. 15. Is there something off the... Oh no, oh yeah, there's the old growth troll there.
Yeah, it
So
also only costs 1 to activate the
12,
Nykthos, so that might have
14,
messed up your mana.
16. Yeah, so there should be seven. Oh, I guess there's 19 total.
All right, here's Storming the Festival #1, top 5.
That is not the face of a man who hit the goods off Storm the
I
Festival.
mean, lucky for him, he still got 13 mana to play with and a Storming the Festival in the graveyard, so he can keep going.
Wow, I think the other three Storm the Festivals were the top three cards of Daniel's deck.
Ooh, ripperoo. All right, Mason's giving him the fist bumps.
That might be worst possible.
All right, we're gonna go down to 3. Storm the Festival. Again, there's a card in the Great Creator, only 3 floating. I don't think he has another Nykthos. What can he do with the Karn once it's in play? 3 floating, 1 forest, and the elf. So a 5-drop could get Sky Sovereign and blow up his opponent's Karn. I think that's going to be the move. Also has access to 6 mana now with the forest, so could get a 6-drop instead.
Yeah, I think Boat makes a lot of sense here.
I think he just said, there's a Karn in play. Ah! Let me remember that for when I go tutoring. Chain Veil doesn't work anymore.
Not going to make the same mistake twice as Daniel.
Yep. We call that progress. I'm learning. It's like my favorite thing you post on social media all the time.
Yeah, everybody loves Ralph Wiggum.
Yeah, Ralph Wiggum. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
He'd be like 40 now.
That's where I saw the Leprechaun. He tells me to burn things.
Here's Sky Sovereign. That's going to come down. Karn down. Now what do you think the Pithy Needle should be naming, Ross?
I mean, if Mason hadn't named Kiora, we would have so much mana.
Yeah. But we already had 19 or whatever. It's already been done. We cast Storm the Festival twice. All right, Mason. Looks like you're going to get another turn here. He definitely had enough to do it. I don't know if they're just double checking on some stuff or whatever, but. Oh, I think he's asking if he's played a land. Oh my god. I don't wanna be here anymore. You know how hard it is to reconstruct to figure out if you've played a land?
Yeah.
What if you missed a land drop?
And with Blossoming Tortoise and Cavalier triggers.
Yeah. No thank you. Don't even ask me that. Draws Kiora for the turn. Can't be used to activate the Nykthos again thanks to his own Pithy Needle. Unfortunate. But can maybe use the Kiora in tandem with some 3-drop or 5-drop creatures to draw some cards, deploy some stuff to the battlefield. But unless he's able to deal with Daniel Stops, Karn the Great Creator on the other side of the battlefield, next turn's gonna be a wicked one. Mason, no slouch of his own though, has access to a ton of mana here with the Nykthos. Do some serious stuff. I don't think he has a card in hand, but if he does, he might be able to do something really cool.
I think he has a key. You noted he had the Kiora in hand.
Yep. Old Growth Troll. Oh, he does have a Karn. Okay, so.
Is that Karn or Cityscape Leveler?
I mean, if he'd stop flicking his cards for a quarter second and show them to the camera, I'd probably be able to tell you.
Mason keeping those cards close to the vest.
That's a Karn.
Well, that's a good one.
It is a good one, which kind of makes it also a Cityscape Leveler, so I guess you were right on that.
Porque no los dos.
Okay. Rearranging the battlefield slightly so that we can see everything on the camera. Appreciate that. Just getting a little gummy here. Here we go. Mason. What you got for me? Has access to a boatload. The Kiors are locked down, so limited slightly by that. We're going to lead off with Kiora, who is locked down with Pithy Needle. This is mostly just to get some extra cards. Oh. Alright, so he does have a mana floating. He's going to use that with the Force and the Nykthos.
It's 10-13 devotion for Mason Clark, looks like.
Okay. We're going to go Karning. Troll first. Down to 10.
We still have enough mana to wish for Cityscape Leveler and cast it if we want to.
Yep, and I think he's aware of that, which is why he is doing this exactly. You know, he's sequencing it like this because he knows that that's still able to be done. But information changes slightly based on the card drawn. Here's Cityscape Leveler, the big 8-drop found with Karn the Great Creator. That's going to blow up a permanent from Daniel, and we're going to go after the Karn. Bang. Here's a Power Stone token. So cool. Power Stones are just garbage. Worst token, not close.
I like how most of the Power Stones that people have on the battlefield are unusable because they're granted to you while your opponent has a Karn.
Yeah. You can do some cool stuff every now and then with Power Stone tokens with like Stern Lesson. You can use it to cast Torrential Gearhulk a turn ahead of schedule. That's a heater.
You can use them to activate Nykthos.
That's true. But it is currently locked down. We'll see if Daniel has a way to win the game here. Otherwise, he's staring down the barrel. This Sky Sovereign is locked down from the Karn, so it can't attack and kill it. He needs to have a huge turn. He's put 3 Storm the Festivals on the bottom with that earlier Storm the Festival, so we know that those are out of the equation. He has a Cure in play, so any of those creatures that are large can cycle and draw a card and keep chaining. He has access to 1 billion mana. That's locked down, but he has access to 1 billion mana otherwise. Or the Hydra should have Trample.
No, it shouldn't.
Games would be over more quickly, which is the only thing I care about at the moment.
Just complete nonsense, Todd.
Okay, all right. I've heard you say some complete nonsense before, so...
That's a lie, and we know it.
All right, here's Nykthos activation. Costs 1 less because of the Toidle. 17 mana. We're going to start by sacking the land with the Old Growth Troll down to 16. It's going to allow us to create a 4/4 token that draws a card. What I do when I make an Old Growth Troll is I just pull it out of the sleeve like a normal human being.
But then you don't have it in the graveyard.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Dang, you got me on that one.
Oh, just making sure the devotion count is accurate.
Yep. Got to keep the books. We draw a card. What was it? Daniel Stop. With a blunder in game number 2, could potentially be heading home without a qualification to the regional championship in Denver at the beginning of next year. And Mason Clark is on the precipice of a back-to-back finish.
Yeah, it looks like not naming Karn to that Pithing Needle turned out pretty well.
Look, all I'm saying is disaster could have struck.
And all I'm saying is it didn't.
Look, that's why you're the resident expert, and I'm just the funny guy. God knows we know you're not that funny.
I've made the director laugh more this weekend than you have.
I don't think that's true. I've heard him guffaw at some of my quips. Here's an elf. Anything else? No? Dead? Looks pretty dead.
Well, we're not going to be able to really go super crazy with the Cityscape Leveler. We get 1 attack, whatever it trades for in combat. I guess then you get an Unearth and another attack.
More importantly, you just get to go get the Chain Veil and go crazy.
Well,
the Cure's still locked down. Okay, all right.
You can't make a bajillion mana.
Oh my god, is this game going to take a long time too?
They all do, Todd.
Oh, that's right. So, he said, I think Mason said, I'm going to blow up my own Pithing Needle, and then we're going to do it. And that is going to be the game.
Yeah, Cityscape Leveler does destroy any permanent, not just ones your opponent's control. I think we're getting the old explain how you're dead so we can save everybody's 20 minutes.
And there it is. Mason Clark is your back-to-back champion here on the Apex Gaming Series with Mono Green Devotion, knocking off a mirror match in the finals. Comes back from the edge of defeat last game and steals game 3 in a very tight finish. Cityscape Leveler, the MVP off the Karn the Great Creator. What a guy.
Yeah, really impressive stuff to win that mirror on the draw and with 2 games where you didn't have a turn 1 elf. He lost the game where he had a turn 1 elf. Yeah. And won the other 2.
Well, folks, we're going to go get Mason in here and give him... Oh, we got to get the playmat. Oh, crap. All right, Mr. Director. Why don't you come back to the booth so we can talk to them, and then you go get Mason, you go get the playmat. Chop, chop.
We're back.
We're back. The tournament's over. We have a champion, Mason Esports Clark, your back-to-back Pioneer Open champion, winning with Mono Green Devotion, the same 75, probably the same deck box. I don't even think, I don't know, just travels around the world, winning
Same
everything.
sleeves. He probably didn't even take the deck home. Probably just left it here.
Yeah. So let's show off the prize that we're about to give Mason. And this here expressive iteration playmat. Every champion of the invitational qualifiers does receive this as a reward on top of your qualification to the Apex Invitational in November, as well as a regional championship in Denver in I think it's February.
Next
Not
year.
really sure which. All right, come on in. You get out of here. I want to talk to him.
No, I get to talk to
Why
him.
do you get to talk to him?
Because I missed him last month.
Okay, all right, here you go.
Yeah, well, you get to say hello to Todd. He's right there. Okay.
My play was less than stellar. I missed the Cityscapes level. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to live our best life.
Yeah.
Hello, Gal.
Well, I mean, at least you didn't wish for a chain veil when your opponent had a Karn.
Listen, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days.
Yeah.
Hannah Montana. But,
Yeah. It's a tough, match to play at the end of a long weekend, the very
Yeah.
complicated mono green mirror. What was going through your head when your opponent was activating that Karn? Was it, please get the chain veil, please get the chain veil,
So-
please get the chain veil?
he was talking out loud. He's like, I have the combo. And I was like, yeah, if you can combo, it's pretty bad or whatever. And then he was thinking, and then he decides okay, I'm going to go for it. And then he almost stops. And then he because you see him stop for a second. And he's like, okay, no, it's good. And plays it. And then I'm like, Karn. And so, yeah, it was one of those awkward moments. And then the last game, too, I don't think he realized that, he had to do something to end the game. I don't think he could have done anything, but, you had to kill the Cityscape leveler so I can't combo you back.
Yeah, because the leveler is going to be able to destroy your own
Pithing
Pithing
Needle, and I have the whole combo set up. So it's a very awkward mirror. I've played the mirror a ton now. The closest thing I have to, a loss is that draw earlier. And it's just a lot about the board. And, you assume you keep weird hands because of that, too.
And the interesting thing is that the battlefields get huge. So there's, 10, 15 permanents on both sides of the battlefield, but you've got to figure out which are the ones that matter. And
Yes.
sometimes it's Kiora, sometimes it's Karn, sometimes it's Cityscape Leveler. Sometimes you just fall too far behind to big creatures and you can lose an aggro game. So
I think that's the most common thing for what it's worth. If you're at home, the board is what matters more than anything. People talk about the nut draws Kiora, play another elf. For me, it's often play creatures or have a Wolf Willow Kiora start. Those the board is what matters.
yeah, so we noticed that you had only one hand that started on an elf. Your opponent had all three games started on Llanowar Elves, had multiple games where they had elf into Kiora, but you were able to come back and several of them actually won both games that you didn't start on turn one, Elvish Mystic or Llanowar Elves. Is that something that you've been working on in the mirror? Because generally the book on the mirror is go out fast and make a lot of mana.
Yeah, I had the ability to produce a lot of mana with those hands, and it played to the battlefield. You'll notice in game one, I don't know if you could see it, but I Oath, and I have Troll and Kiora, and at the time I had no board pressure, so I opted to get a Troll. Ended up drawing a bunch more Trolls, which I had Kiora or whatever. But so I'm gonna play the rest of the games. I much rather have board presence than anything else. So that's kind of what I'm playing towards. I think an Elf is kind of broken, but if you have Wolf Willow Kiora starts, those are good enough, especially on the play. On the draw, it was very risky, and I'm probably gonna think about that 7 more. I'm not sure if it was right, but still, it's kind of what I go for.
It worked out. So,
Yeah.
So would you say that you like getting the big creatures down early because they can pressure the opposing planeswalkers?
Yes. So my opponent was talking about Stonebraining Karn, I think in game one, and I often I kind of subscribe to the Cabal's theory of you should hit Storm the Festival off the Stonebrain because the battlefield matters so much. Obviously, if they're going to kill you, you name Karn so they can't combo you, but for the most part, you should just fight over the board.
Yeah, so your defaults are a little bit different than the norm, and it seems to be working for you. You won last month, you won this month.
Yes.
Did you lose a match last month?
I don't think so. I think I went undefeated. I drew, and
Yeah.
then and then I drew.
And,
yeah.
and did you change any cards?
No, I
between
haven't
that?
changed the card in
Haven't
like
changed it.
6 months.
Did you even change the sleeves?
No, there's same sleeves. Yeah, that I used last time because I haven't played the deck like any. So.
Incredible. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on the run. One last question, actually.
Hit me.
We saw Ryan Hayes earlier and your finals opponent both playing Blossoming Tortoise in their deck. Have you thought about that card at all?
I did. I think it's really good in the mirror. We saw kind of it. I think actually my opponent last round was supposed to attack to try and mill Storm the Festival and then cast and do everything they did. They were all on the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, their first Storm the Festival saw the other 3.
Oh, that's why I'm here right now. This
Yeah.
is so easy. Why does
Yeah.
everyone else not do this? No. So I think it's really good in the mirror. Like, it lets you combo a lot. Like we just said, storms matter, the battlefield matters. Even though it kind of dies, I think finding a Nykthos is good. I'm a pretty big subscriber to the fact that the third Pelucranos is the tech card, because a lot of your bad matchups are aggro decks. So just having more elf into a 4/5 matters. I believe the mirror is about the battlefield, right? And I believe all my bad matchups are control decks that I have to pressure, or combo decks I have to pressure, or race in the combo. So the third Pelucranos is like my tech slot, and I'm a pretty big believer. I could be sold on the turtle, but for right now, 4/5s to the moon.
Yeah, and even in the mirror, just having more, early devotion sources and early creatures to pressure planeswalkers is excellent. Wow. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming to these events, and I am looking forward to see you in November for the Invitational.
Oh, I qualified for the RC too.
Yes.
I'm done. I've been so awkward. I had to play
Mason,
a third RCQ.
You have it all.
I know.
You have it all. You have another expressive iteration
know,
playmat too.
I know. I gotta give it away or something to somebody. Because I can't. It's so pretty, but I need someone else to have it too. So
You
they can
should
spread
just
the
play
love.
on 2 of them stacked on top
Oh,
of each
I should
other.
stitch them together so me and my opponent both have one, like a Spellgrounds.
There you go. Then they can have it all too.
And that could be you if you come on out here on October 20th for the next one. 20th. All right, I'm out. I tried.
You tried hard. I appreciate the effort.
I know. They said it out there. Kyle said 20th. Oh, I'm tilted. I'm out. Bye, chat. Have fun.
See ya. Congrats.
Thank you. I'll see y'all later.
Okay. Let's get Todd back in here and we'll wrap up this weekend.
Okay. All right. So, a very exciting weekend. Both tournaments. We had a $5,000 Modern Open yesterday, where we crowned the champion Don Delozier playing Rakdos Evoke, what many consider to be the best deck in the format. Today, we watched Mason Clark go undefeated, beating the Mirror in the finals, with many considered to be the best deck in the format, Mono Green Devotion. So, if we've learned anything, it's play Rogue deck. All right. Thank you
The two
so
best
much.
decks in the format took it down. 2 most popular decks both days took it down, and 2 excellent players took it down. So, make sure you know how to play your deck. Make sure you have good plans. If you listen to the interview we did with Dawn yesterday after she won, she picked up Rakdos on Tuesday, but did a ton of homework over this past week to get ready to play the deck. Mason's been playing mono green forever. He deviates from the norm in certain spots. So really having deep knowledge of your deck and playing a really good deck, that's how you win games of Magic.
That's how you win tournaments. All right. Well, shout out to Kyle and Taryn Huck. Taryn is our director. He's the co-owner of Apex Gaming, along with his big brother, Kyle. They always put on a great show, and everyone seems to love this place, and I know I do. We're always very happy to come up and do commentary for Apex Gaming's events, and we'll be back soon. We have a couple of Lorcana events on the schedule that are coming up. We're going to try to come and do some commentary for those. Got to figure out the logistics for that. But the next Apex Magic Weekend, for those of you looking to attend yourself, it's going to be on October the 28th. So make sure to come on out on October 27th, 28th, and 29th weekend. I know it's going to be right before Halloween, but we're going to have a really spooky show for you. Maybe we should dress up in costume. That'd be kind of fun.
Please, God, no.
You can just Al Borland it up. It's fine.
That's basically what I am right now. I just have a blazer on.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone at home for watching the event this weekend. The events were quite fun to cast. Thank you to the big raids from our friends over on Twitch. And thank you so much to everyone at home for watching. And we'll see you next time. For Apex Gaming, I'm Tandy. That's Ross. Say bye, Ross.
Bye, Ross.